Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. Interlocking hands. It's something we do on piano. And it's when you get like two or three notes in one hand, two or three other notes in the other hand, and sometimes they just kind of like sit into each other. Well, when you add rhythmic complexity to that, or a kind of a drumming technique where you alternate hands, you can get these beautiful, modally saturated, rhythmically surprising textures that can be very exciting. You don't have to perform it. You can layer in one track at a time. You can record a track and then offset the other, lots of possible ways to do this. I want to talk about my approach to this today, and maybe even talk a little bit about the technique, because you might want to try it yourself. It's kind of interesting. Listen to this and watch what happens. The left hand has two notes, not terribly complicated. The right hand's going to come in over the top with those three notes. And listen to the texture. Well, that's an example of interlocking hands, and also of something which I love, which I call modal saturation. What makes that kind of thing work? Let's start at the beginning. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about just the physics, sort of like the hand gestures of doing this. So watch this technique just to begin. Even in the earliest piano music, you wind up having little things that kind of work like this. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right. You see what I'm doing? I'm making a whole phrase by combining hands. In Bach's toccatas and in plenty of piano music after that, this is a really kind of common approach. And it doesn't take much to imagine, well, I could extend that a little bit further. What if I just have something that's rolling along like this phrase here? And I add notes to that. Now, basically, I'm playing five notes at once for all intents and purposes, aren't I? I'm playing these three in my left hand and these two in my right. Do you notice, and you can see this from above, that I'm not using my thumbs very much? I think using just the longer fingers kind of makes this a little bit easier. Well, it turns out that pentatonic scales, 5-note scales, or we could take it perhaps a little bit further and go to hexachords, 6-note scales, tend to sound best with this kind of thing. But that's not to say that that's the only possibility. We can extend things quite densely. I just played these and these. I don't know what scale that is. There's extra notes in there, isn't there? Interlocking hands gives you an opportunity to create textures that you probably wouldn't have come up with otherwise. Sometimes when you're playing an interlocking scale, you'll find you just get a little bit bored. So here's my C triad in the left hand, and here are my other two notes in the right, F and A. I'm just going to start off with a simple drumming approach. All of the notes, all of the notes, all of the notes, all the notes. So if I'm drumming, I'm going left, right, or right, left, right, left. And that's kind of boring, isn't it? But I can change scales right in place. For instance, if I wanted to change to the key of D major, the F would become F sharp, and the C would become C sharp. So here's my drumming in C, and And here's my drumming in D. It's brilliant, right? It kind of like suddenly makes everything kind of get exciting and fun. And this is a standard minimalist approach. When you have 5 or 6 notes in a system, change the system, but don't change the actual position of the voices. Let's try that with the pattern that we started with. Now there are no C's here, so I'm just going to change the F to F sharp. Here we go. And if I go down in the left hand, I could go down to a C sharp. And then a B with a C sharp on top, and then an A with a C sharp on top. Let's go back to D minor. Interlocking hands can be useful just if you think about a chord that has extensions, right? You don't have to think about big scale systems. For instance, we love these kinds of extended dominant chords. And this chord, C7, with a 9th and a sharp 11, is a prime example of something that might be really interesting to try with interlocking hands. Let's give those 3 notes to the left hand and these 2 notes to the right. Now, just like if I'm comping in a sort of a jazz situation, I might play them all at once and then separate. And then this is my F7, F13, if you can vibe that. C, F, C7, F7. Well, I think my most common use for this kind of thing is with very simple kind of an ambient approach to minimalism. And a very simple thing like this, which is an A minor kind of strum almost, can be enlivened by bringing the right hand over the top and using the other notes from the scale. So other notes from the scale in this case might be the 3rd, the 9th, the 6th, maybe the 7th. Let's try something. Interlocking hands will give you an opportunity to create resultant rhythms and melodies. You can't always predict what they're going to be, but you got to notice them. Of course, capturing them on the screen like this, analyzing them after the fact, all that becomes very, very interesting. As you find a pattern that you like, ask yourself the question, what mode am I in? This collection of 6 notes I'm playing, is it in the all on white keys? Is it A minor? What if I change the C to C sharp, the F to F sharp, and suddenly I would be in D or some other mode? The brightness of the mode can change by flatting notes to conform it to a new scale, or sharp a few notes to make it, rise up into a new key signature or a new scale level. Shifting those things can sometimes be all that it takes to create some kind of like narrative arc in your composition. I like this sort of fast drumming approach to comping jazz chords especially, and I'll very often interlock hands to create sort of interesting rhythmic parts that have a little more density and excitement, actually create little melodies within the parts. Well, listen, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe, ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. I'll see you next time.